the real one that both of us met were within ourselves. So I stepped into being the soulmate, whether or not my beloved counterpart was meant to show up in this lifetime. She did the same thing. That brought us together, but we were also very detached and settled on whether I meet that person or not.
I'd like to welcome back to the show, returning champion,
Yes.
Matt Kahn. How you doing, brother?
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. What an incredible setup you have.
Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate that. It's been a long time coming, man. Long time coming.
And I just wanted to start out by saying, because, you know, I've known you for a little bit, and I just wanted to congratulate you on this incredible success.
Thank you,
and
man.
whenever I get to tune in and watch you and all these wonderful guests, it's such a beautiful level of connection, and I love everything you're doing. And so the chance to come back and spend time with you is truly an honor.
Oh, I truly appreciate that, Matt. Thank you so much. Well, I mean, you are a OG, sir. You are a OG of Next Level Soul. You are on episode 16. I think the first time we interviewed, I was in my film set of my old podcast, because I hadn't even built a set for this show yet. And then our second interview we did, I was in my Airbnb in almost looked like the closet.
It did.
And I'm wondering what you're thinking at this point. You're like, this guy, I mean, he's in a closet. I don't understand what's going on.
I don't know these things. I just thought it was such. We had such.
We had great conversations.
Great conversations.
Yeah,
I think you're a great guy. But honestly, I didn't have any thoughts about those interviews. It's when I stepped into this set and I went, oh.
No, it's funny. When you walked in, you were like, you saw my office where like the computers are like, so are we doing it in here?
Is this
like,
where we're being interviewed?
Are we being interviewed in here? Like, is there a mic anywhere? Like, are we? I'm like, no, dude. We got a little something on the other side of the door.
This is next level, Alex.
This is next level, sir. No pun intended. Well, and congratulations to you. You just you're a newlywed, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, I'm the Lord of the Ring. And I'm married. Joy and I got married on St. Patrick's Day, which was a year to the date of the day we met.
Oh, that's amazing.
And we met at a conference as, we were both speaking on stage. We'd never met each other, and we met by the end of the weekend. We both had promised each other in our next relationship, if that is, we're going to take it slower than ever. We promised each other, like silently. I promised myself this. Right. And so I met her, and then by the end of the weekend, I was in a committed relationship, which was the opposite of that declaration.
Well, a year later, to get married, pretty quick, my friend.
Pretty quick, but
as you get older, though, you know when you know, man.
You know when you know.
And then you guys are both connected a little bit to the source, if you will.
Yeah.
So you guys kind of felt that energy, and you're like, why are we wasting time?
Actually, it was funny, and she tells this story so well. But when we met, we turned around, we met. Within a few minutes of talking, literally our energy fields connected, and it was literally like the universe saying, by the way, you two are together. Yeah. So
you're welcome.
Figure it out.
You're welcome.
Yeah, process it, journal about it. Whatever you got to do, pull cards, but you're together. And,
so let me ask you this, though. Have you guys been together in other lifetimes is the question.
I think we have. She has more of a sense of that. I have a familiarity with her. There's a felt sense of it.
Yeah.
But I went through an experience, and I think this is maybe I went through an experience a couple of years ago because, we've had different interactions over the years. And what's interesting is I go through so much growth and expansion, as we all do, that every time I meet you, I feel like I'm meeting you like as a new version of myself, literally.
Of course.
I meet myself brand new every single day. But I went through this experience many years ago of awakenings where, you remember your past lives and, I think I was this character and I remember this memory. And then I went through an experience a couple of years ago where it was, and I think of levels of consciousness like floors in a building. So at one floor, I remember my past lives, some of them at least, and I processed that, and I've been here before, and there is no death, life continues, all these realizations. And then I had this experience of going to the next floor. And I suddenly realized that even the experience of my past lives was just a different dream. And I've now have this lived experience where the past lives I did remember, the wisdom has been integrated, the wounding has been healed, and I actually live as if this lifetime is my first and only lifetime, which then gave me an actual real experience of what it means to be reborn, not like in a religious sense, but what that really means spiritually, to be reborn and to literally be in this lifetime as if it's your first and only lifetime. And so when I met Joy, I'm in this place where all the sense of past or even past lifetimes is gone. But there was a familiarity I felt with her for sure. There was this I know you.
Where have you been?
Where have you been?
Where have you been?
Right.
I felt it with my wife as
right?
well. Yeah.
I've been looking since I was 14 years old. And every person, are you?
Are you the one?
Are you?
Oh yeah, we went through a lot of frogs, as they say.
Yeah. So
it's interesting though when you do meet people like that, and it doesn't have to be romantic. Other people like that just people are like, oh, where have you been?
Right.
There's this an automatic connection, an automatic vibe, and energy, and there are people that when you meet them, you're like, oh, get away from me, get away from me. I don't know what we did in our life. Just go away.
Yeah.
There's one person, I won't mention their name, but when I met them, their energy was so heavy.
Oh.
Like other people around me had no problem with her.
Yeah.
But she was, I was like,
yeah.
I can't. She did nothing to me.
Yeah.
Nothing, not a mean word has ever been spoken to me.
Right.
Not an action has been done to me. Nothing.
Sure.
But there was something about the energy. I was just like, ooh, I got to take a shower. Oh, no. Do not want to hang out with her anymore. I can't. So it goes both ways.
Right.
It goes both ways.
It does.
So let me ask you, since we're talking about your newfound love, your long lost love, a lot of people watching are trying to find their divine connection, their other half in this life. What advice do you have for people who are like we were searching? I mean, I was 30 when I found mine, and it was a good amount of time.
Sure.
And you just recently found yours.
Yeah. At 47.
At 47, exactly. So it's different for everybody.
Right.
Some people are lucky to find them in high school.
Right.
Some people find them at 80.
Right.
Which is upsetting.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a tunnel.
It's as you're going through the tunnel. Oh,
hey!
Come on! I'll see you in the next one. So what advice do you have for people who are just in just looking and looking and looking? I could tell you one thing though.
Yeah, well, I have very specific advice. What would you say?
Well, the thing I did is I stopped looking.
Yeah.
I stopped looking. I'll tell you exactly how it happened.
Yeah.
I'd been single for 3 years.
Yeah.
Broke up with a bad relationship. And I did a walkabout in Mexico. Yeah. I went down there, went to the pyramids, and I did by myself.
Yeah.
It was early years ago. Right. Went down by myself and went to all the things. I just had like a walkabout, a spiritual walkabout, even though I didn't know it was a spiritual walkabout, but kind of a spiritual walkabout. And on the plane back, I just said to God, God, it'd be kind of nice if I can find someone who I could love and could love me back. That was the order I placed. Yeah. 3 weeks later, she showed up.
My goodness.
3 weeks later, she showed up. And we've been together ever since.
I love that.
So I stopped looking. That was my advice because I was always like, all right, hello, are you it? Are you it? Are you it?
Yeah.
And that energy, I don't think, at least for me, it didn't didn't work for trying to find that other person.
Right.
The moment I said, I'm good on my own, it'd be nice if I could find that other half now. Not like I need you to live, more like you complement the way I'm walking this. I need someone to walk with me, next to me, as a journey. Does that make sense?
It does. I think that part of the confusion, and I have a couple of very specific pieces of advice on this that I think are maybe not expected, but it will be the truth of what I've lived out. I think that people think that either looking for your beloved is going to be what causes you to find them. And usually when you're looking for your beloved, you're trying to cast someone into the role they're not meant to play. Right? So then you treat someone who isn't your beloved as your beloved, and we can see all the sitcoms that are created out of that.
Yeah.
So I think there's an idea that looking for my beloved is going to help me stack the deck. But then the other spiritual superstition is looking is what's blocking me. What I would say is that neither looking is blocking or helping you. It's just what you do to pass the time until the moment arrives. So you had an intuition that said, I'm going to meet my wife soon. And so you process that intuition by declaring, I'd like to meet that one. And then 3 weeks later, she entered your life. So for me, I look at that, and it's very similar with the law of attraction. There are some people who think they're creating out of thin air. And actually what they're doing is they're intuiting that it's near. And then their declaration that I'm going to create it or that it's here is actually the acceptance of, I accept this is coming near, and I'm willing to choose that timeline. So I had been looking for my beloved since I was, like 14 years old. And I had, heard so many times from people, oh, don't look for the one. So I would not look for the one as a way of trying to stack the deck to bring the one to me. So one eye's closed, not looking for the one eye open, making sure I don't miss her. So still looking by not looking. And I'd been in relationships, and they were all wonderful in preparing me for the kind of relationship I was meant to be in. And I got to a place in my life where I thought, if it's not going to be the kind of relationship that I've always thought I was meant to have, I'm okay alone. I'm successful. Mm-hmm. I'm good alone. I cook incredibly. I live a very beautiful life. Mm-hmm. I serve the world, and that's one of my greatest passions. So I had let my work and my service to the humanity be my beloved until, or if it was meant to happen. And when it was getting closer to, as I was kind of out of my last relationship before Joy and I met, what I decided to do, so there's two things that happen. One is I decided, based on an intuition, that I'm going to live like a single married man, a single husband. So I'm married to my wife. She hasn't materialized in my reality yet. But I'm not going to even go on a date with a woman unless I have a sense that she could actually be the one, or else I'm going to treat a woman in a way that isn't the role she's meant to play. And I felt like I would be cheating on my wife. And at first I was like, that's either super romantic or that I'm doubling down on my weird, insane stuff. But it felt really true of, I don't want to cosplay a relationship. I don't want to role play this. I want to actually either be in the relationship I'm meant to be in or not at all. So I would meet people and there'd be interest, and I would know this would be an exploration, but this is not the one for me. And so I wouldn't even engage in a first date, because I would only go on a first date with someone I actually thought could be my wife. So it was like a courtship.
How and what age did you come up with this?
I mean, this was maybe 5 or so years ago.
Yeah.
So
you were seasoned at this point.
Yeah. I was really serious, and that for me gave me a sense of closure. Mm-hmm. And another thing is when it got close to meeting Joy, and I didn't know this, I was taken through an experience with my guides, and they kind of explained to me something really interesting. And they had said, everyone thinks birth is followed by death, and that's why everyone's afraid of death. It's the unknown. But actually death comes before birth, right? There's the death of being in the womb as one is born. There's the death of the death of being the seed before you blossom in the flower. So death actually occurs. Joy would say entropy. That's a beautiful word she uses a lot, that I've learned from her. But she would say that it's a true thing that death occurs in order for birth to dawn. And so my guides had said to me, you're going to meet your beloved, but there's going to be a time where those who come together are separated, whether by death. And my guide said to me, Melchizedek said, even if you hold hands and walk into the gates of heaven together, there's going to be a moment somewhere where you go your separate ways. Sure. And so I was walked through a process of processing the death of my wife as a way of opening up to being able to receive her in a way where I wouldn't give my power away to the relationship, and where having this relationship wouldn't then make me afraid of losing something, or that I'd be a people pleaser, or that I'd figure out what can I do to, keep her, all the things that we do when our ego gets involved. And so I was taken through this really incredible experience of, in order to be the version of myself that she's welcoming into her reality, and in order to welcome in the version of her that I'm welcoming in, I have to allow the she and I that haven't even come to be to perish. And I processed the death of her. And for me, it was the death of not only us, but I had been looking for my wife for so many years. I also processed this may not be what's meant to be for me. So I processed the death of the fantasy of my wife, that in order for me to meet her in reality, I have to let the fantasy die. I have to stop keeping myself company with visions of me and my wife, and I had to let the fantasy die. And so I went through this very deep experience of letting the fantasy and whatever will be in reality to die, and to go through that. And on the other end of that, I became a very different version of myself, who at that point was so whole and was so embodied. Yeah. And I remember I went to this speaking event in Arizona. I was, going to be a keynote speaker, and I had to go to this breakfast thing, and meet all the other speakers, whatever, which, and I remember I was in such a funny place when I went into that breakfast. I was just like, in my mind, like, I hope no one bats their eyes at me. I am so not in this place. And, I'm done and I'm complete, and, all the big declarations. And I walked in, and she and I wound up meeting. Like, she turned around and we met. And within a few minutes, our energy fields just clicked. And we sat down at the same table. We were both joking that this, pre-speaker thing felt like traffic school, and what is this? And by the end of that breakfast, we found ourselves just in this, wow, this connection is instantaneous on every level, not just like the spiritual connection. Like, I think we're supposed to be together, but the attraction and everything. And then she was speaking that weekend, I was speaking that weekend. And that weekend we spent getting to know each other. And by the end of the weekend, we were in a committed relationship, because we had both said that we both didn't want to explore it unless this was a fully committed journey together.
Of course.
And if I felt that this actually could be my wife, I don't casually date. I don't do any of that stuff. I want to get to know her, and I want to focus on that, and I want to see what this is. And she was of the same mindset. And so we got into a relationship. We traveled back and forth from Arizona to Seattle a few times. She moved in months later, and on the year anniversary of the day we met, we were married. And it's been the greatest relationship that I've ever known. But, and I'm sure she'd probably say the same. Hopefully, I'm sure she would say the same. Alex, I'm sure she would say the same thing. Alex, wait. Let me muscle test it. Yep, she would. She would say that. But
she's real, right?
I hope so.
I hope so. If not, this is a really bad Sixth Sense sequel.
If not, this is going to be Next Level Soul, when spirituality
meets Sixth Sense.
Meets delusion.
Absolutely.
Right?
Right.
So, but it is the best relationship I've ever been in. And it's because of the journey that I went through to become the version of myself that we were both meant to be together. She had a similar experience of, I'm only going to take seriously a man I think is my husband. So we were both living as single married people. And the reason I think that's incredible advice
That's beautiful.
is because when you, like, if you're a single person and you're just dating, well, let me back up and say this. There's a way that the soul connects and there's a way the ego engages. So it's very telling. So when the soul connects, the soul says, I don't lean in unless it's a yes on every level. The ego says, I lean in as if it's a yes.
And hope for the best.
When I'm not sure. Yeah. So what the ego doesn't know is the phrase, I don't know. Mm-hmm. If you hear it, you hear no. You don't hear, I don't yes. So the ego says, well, but we don't want to just judge the person. We don't want to. Yeah. Who knows?
Sure. She works in the mafia.
Who knows?
I mean, I could change her.
Right? Sure they're holding a butcher knife, but
I mean, yeah. Over your neck while you sleep. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's
everyone has a tick.
Everyone
has the thing they do.
You know what?
That's how they stay safe.
And that's another thing, though, that we're joking about it, but the rationalization of the other person's
that's right.
stuff. And man, I don't know if you went through that, but you start rationalizing. You're like, the fear comes in, like, I'm afraid of being alone.
Yeah.
It's just a butcher knife. I'm sure that she, took the money out of my account for a good reason, whatever that is. And it could be he or her, everybody, please.
Right.
On both sides. But that rationalization is powerful and gets people into a lot of trouble. Got me into trouble.
Yeah.
I think it probably got you into trouble early on. We all rationalize because we either fear of being alone, fear of being rejected, fear of all the fears start coming in, and your ego is like, well, this and that, and
of course,
and all this kind of stuff is something that we really need to keep an eye on. When you're walking in, like when I walked in, to my relationship with my wife, it was soul level. There's no question. Before I even understood what that was, we just knew it. We both knew it. She couldn't wrap her head around me. We're so opposite.
Yeah.
So she couldn't wrap her head around me, because one moment I am like Robin Williams bouncing off the walls. Our first date, I just was, and she's like, "What is happening?" Mm-hmm. I like him, but Jesus. The next one, I'm sitting in a bookstore with her talking deep things, and she's like, "Who is this guy?" Couldn't grasp it. But I walked into it I just knew. And that's, I think, when you have that inclination, I just didn't care anymore.
Right.
I'm like, I'm going to be me.
Right.
I'm going to be me, and it's going to be what it's going to be.
Well, I think that's how Joy and I were. I know we were. We just were ourselves. Mm-hmm. And we're both very transparent people. So there wasn't, it was more a conversation of, I really like you. How do you feel about me?
Right.
And it was so refreshing.
Right.
Because that's how we both are. We're both just very honest people. And
well, you didn't wait 2 days to call her back? That's a rule, man. That's a dude rule. 2 days. If you want to really make her wait, 5 days. Because that's smart.
Yeah, with a 50% divorce rate.
Right.
So those are the rules.
Those are the guys.
Those are the rules.
Those are the rules if you want a 50% divorce rate.
We're
not even getting out of the gate.
Here's the thing about my rules, which are made up. But if I like when Joy and I went on a date, mm-hmm. and we parted, I texted her 2 minutes later to say I had a great time.
Absolutely.
Please let me know when you get home.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see you again.
Right.
Immediately.
Old school. I love it. Old school. Love it.
Immediately. Like if someone, here's a dating rule. If they can't handle your inner sixth grader, let your inner sixth grader send a text. I like you. I had a great time.
Do I have to hit you with a magazine to get your attention?
Right? Exactly. Don't make me act weird.
Don't make me act weird.
Please don't make
we're
me
dudes
weird.
and we can act weird.
We can act weird. But so we both lived as single, married people. We both, and so that's the thing. The ego says, if I'm not sure, I'm going to keep saying yes and create a relationship with someone that I haven't really gotten a solid yes around. I'm afraid of missing out. I'm afraid of being alone. And so we cast people in the wrong roles. Mm-hmm. And that's when you get down into a relationship and one day you wake up and you go, I just can't do it, or, all these different things. And you wind up hurting people. And so for me, I just didn't want to follow that energy. Again, the soul says, until I get a yes, I don't lean out of friendship. Like if someone goes, oh, I'm feeling this connection with you. Well, I'm not sure what I'm feeling, or so far it's just a friendship. That's the soul and its confidence. Mm-hmm. The ego says, well, I'm looking for a partner.
There's one in front of me.
This must be a sign. This is clearly.
God, the sign. Okay, there's a sign, or spirit told me, or this kind of thing. But it's using, the ego is using terminology to make you, because you don't feel that.
Right.
You're thinking that.
Yeah, self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's thinking it. You're not feeling it. And there is a distinguishing, I can't say the word. Yeah. You distinguish between those two things.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That the mental and the feeling. And boy, I lived up here most of my time.
Well, and when you go from, when people go from identifying with critical thinking as their mode of function most of their life, and then you take in spiritual concepts, and it goes from critical thinking to spiritually critical thinking. Then the critical thinking mind is the one that thinks it's observing all the signs, but it's actually piecing together a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's a scary thing.
That's a scary thing.
Spiritual, what was it?
The spiritual critical thinking?
Thank you. Spiritual critical thinking.
It's also called magical thinking.
Magical thinking.
And what's interesting, and Joy and I both are intuitive. Sure. We both channel.
You guys have you could easily fall into that world so quickly.
We could.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is that it is so easy and again, the ego doesn't do it to hurt anyone. The ego
just wants help.
Is trying to be a helper.
Yeah.
So it goes, you're so into spirituality, and you've convinced me that you're on some sort of mysterious Easter egg hunt. So I'm going to help you find the eggs, even though I'm going to invent them. And then we train our egos to be these searchers and seekers of spiritual signs. It's different when it's a sign. Like when it's a sign, it's so obvious you don't even know what to do with yourself. It's so just like your mind goes blank. There are signs in the universe. Mm-hmm. But then there are the signs that we are kind of piecing together. Yeah. Like, I turn on the car radio and there's a song on the radio.
Well, obviously. Obviously.
And if it's Mariah Carey, double the points.
If it's Mariah Carey, Whitney Houston, Celine Dion.
Right?
Or Bryan Adams. Or Bryan Adams back in the day.
Bryan Adams.
Everything I do for you.
He is an archangel, sir.
Yes, he is.
And so, and I had been someone early in my career where I had understood signs. And I started to know the difference between the universe bringing me a sign and then looking for signs as a way of trying to keep myself. So even in spirituality, we can use fantasy to keep ourselves company as we process the loneliness of our own separation from source. Ooh, right? And so I had gotten so whole in myself, even after years and years of awakening. And when Joy and I met, I always say, we met, obviously we fell in love, but when we fell in love, we didn't just fall in love with each other physically and emotionally and mentally. Mm-hmm. We fell in love with each other's connection and devotion to Source. When we met, we showed each other our devotion to God. Mm-hmm. And that's when two people attracted to one another became husband and wife in the first 10 minutes of mating. And that's now our life.
Absolutely beautiful. I hope that helps a couple people out there. I wish I would have heard this conversation in my 20s or 30s.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Honestly.
Well,
It's powerful stuff. And so many people are looking. I love the idea that this spiritual critical thinking.
Yes.
And that the egos uses spiritual concepts. And you're like, well, I did everything I was supposed to do. I burned the sage.
Yeah.
I'm wearing the right crystals. I
Yes.
don't really understand why, the psychic at the carnival said I can do, like, I'm supposed to have, he's coming or she's coming and I'm supposed to have 3 kids with them. Like that kind of stuff. But when you meet the real one, I think you and I are both lucky enough to have met that person.
Yeah.
It is so different. Mm-hmm. It feels so different.
It does.
Than everything else you've experienced prior to that. Mm-hmm. And even if you can't articulate what it is. Mm-hmm. Like when I first saw her, because we were hooked up, or my mom hooked us up. Mm-hmm. My mom set us up, which is a miracle in itself. She was trying to get me married off. And when I saw her coming out of her house, I've seen her. I saw pictures of her. We spoke on the phone. This is before FaceTime.
Right.
And I just like, oh, well, there you are. And as the conversations kept going, I was like, oh, okay. And don't get me wrong. I was still terrified.
Right.
I was still terrified. I was terrified.
Yeah.
But not that much.
Right.
Not enough to screw things up.
Right.
But in the back of my head, like, don't get hurt. Oh my God, this and that. But that's natural, especially when you're younger.
Yeah.
But when I saw her, I just like, oh, there you are. And as we started talking more and more, we went on our first date. The next day we went on our second date.
Right.
A few days later we went on our third date. It was just like boom, boom, boom. And within a few months she moved in and we were off and running. It was scary, but I just like, oh, it's okay. It's good. It's just the way it's supposed to be. And I was not next level souling. I was not. I think I might have started reading Autobiography of a Yogi at that point.
Maybe.
I had not gotten through it yet because it was too woo-woo for me at that time. So it was not like I had all this stuff in me. I just knew.
Sure.
And that's something you can't articulate with the ego. You just can't.
No, you can't. Well, so I think the advice, is if there's any part of you that's when you're meeting someone that says, I don't know, that means do not move past a friendship or an acquaintanceship until it's a yes. So we don't lean into a yes until it's a yes. Mm-hmm. I don't know means right now, I don't know means no. And it could change, of course, but I don't know is the same as a no. That's the best advice. The other thing that I think is interesting is that people get caught up in their critical thinking mind, right? Which what the way I would describe the ego is a tendency to lean on critical thinking as your mind's mode of operation, right? In spirituality, it's very common to say, oh, the mind's the problem. The mind's not the problem. The mind is a genius creation, right? If you have a high performance vehicle, but you only know how to drive it in certain modes, you're not going to get the most out of it. So in the same way, the mind is incredible, mm-hmm. but when you're only using critical thinking, you're using a very small bandwidth, right?
Very small.
And so I think instead of trying to go, how do I know this is the one can't be denied.
Yes.
So if you're not sure, try breaking up with them. And I say that jokingly at the same time. What Joy and I have, neither of us could deny. We even both walked away going, okay, this is really, this is much.
There's something here.
This is much. We're in Sedona. It's probably the vortex, whatever. Maybe it's the celery juice I promised myself I'd never buy. Maybe it's a combination of things. Yeah. And we both tried to rationalize our way out of this.
Yeah. Critical thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
But the one can't be denied.
That's such a beautiful, and you're absolutely, that should be a t-shirt. The one cannot be denied, because it's absolutely true, because when you do meet them, there's this pull, there's magnetic thing that you have, and you're just like, oh, you're my person.
That's right.
Oh, you're my person.
Yeah.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
You're my person. Got it.
That's right.
Got it.
That's right.
Now, it's not going to be smooth sailing the entire time.
No.
We're human beings. We all have our baggage. We all have our stuff.
Sure.
But when you're with them, it's like this. It runs like this a little bit, as opposed to rocky, at least from my experience.
Right.
And I've been on both versions.
Absolutely. Well, and I think, the ego will say, who do I desire, right? That's the framework. Who do I desire? But I think the deeper question is, who do I desire growing with?
Yeah.
Joy and I desire growing with each other. You and your wife desire growing with each other. So what Joy and I go through in our lives, I mean, I have never wanted children. I have never had children. She has 2 grown children. I'm now a stepfather. I'm a step-grandfather. I'm the dad to a puppy, a cat, and a dog. And I went from being this guy who was like, I don't think being
Lone
a parent,
wolf.
Lone wolf.
Lone wolf, baby.
You're right. I'm going to dedicate myself to my service to the world. I help other people with their lives in that way. And I had this list of, here's what I won't do. She destroyed that because the one can't be denied. And now I'm a stepfather. I love the role I'm playing. The children I have, they're grown, they're adults, but we have a great relationship. Sure. And I'm finding myself growing in a level of embodiment that is such an interesting integration of my entire journey of awakenings and of waking up and growing up and all these course corrective experiences. And on paper, I would have said, nope.
Oh.
But the one can't be denied.
Listen,
so
I promise you, if my list was on the table and my wife was looking at it before meeting me, she's like, "Oh, absolutely. He has a life-size Yoda. What's a Yoda?"
Yeah, what's a Yoda?
Which is a true story, by the way.
Yeah.
She called her Joda for a while.
Joda,
because she had no, it's like old lady sitting in the corner. I swear to God, that's what she called her. And she was talking to a friend of hers, and her friend's like, "You will refer to him as Master Yoda." And she's like, "You too?
You too?
You too? You all together, you geeks?" And oh yeah. It's a long story. So on paper, I didn't definitely make sense in her world. There's no question. Filmmaker doesn't have a steady job, goes from job to job. Money comes in and out when No way. But the one cannot be denied.
So if people are going on dates and trying to piecemeal relationships together and trying to make it work, and then the other thing is, if you're too busy being in relationship with people's potential and not being aware of the reality, and here's what I did in my past. I'll be honest about this. Which is a funny phrase, be honest. As if I've been lying the whole time.
Exactly.
Right? But so I'm now going to finally be honest.
Not finally.
After 18 years.
I can't stand joy. I can't.
If we could just talk for a second.
It's on.
But I would be in relationship with the potential of someone. And what I didn't realize in my personal life, because sometimes in your personal life, the things you learn are different than what you're teaching on stage. Yeah. It took me a second. And what I realized was, not only am I in relationship with the potential that this person is not ready to step into being, what potential I'm actually seeing them is the reflection of my potential. I'm actually confusing my light for their reality. And then I get in a relationship with them, and then all of a sudden the person I thought I knew changes overnight. And it's when life says, actually, we're just introducing you to the person you confused with the light you see in their presence. And so what's amazing is that when we let I don't know be a no, and only yes is a yes, it's easier to feel the, oh yeah, or the, this is the person I'm meant to be with. And I had gotten to a place where I was not sure I was actually ever going to be in a relationship. So even though Joy and I have met and we're both each other's one, she stepped into the one who was going to be the best version of her in a relationship it was meant to be. I stepped into the one I was meant to be. Whether the marriage was going to happen or I was going to even meet her, the real one that both of us met were within ourselves.
If you're enjoying this conversation, I invite you to go deeper down the rabbit hole with me on Next Level Soul TV. It's packed with exclusive content like live special guest Q&As, daily podcasts, commercial-free access to the entire Next Level Soul catalog, early access to episodes before they air, and special meditations you won't find anywhere else. We will be adding new exclusive content every month, plus you can connect with me during my monthly live streams. Just go to nextlevelsoul.com/subscribe and join our soulful community today. I'll see you on the inside.
So I stepped into being the soulmate, whether or not my beloved counterpart was meant to show up in this lifetime. She did the same thing. That brought us together, but we were also very detached and settled on whether I meet that person or not. Stepping into my fullest potential might just be exactly the love that this lifetime has for me. And I got into a full acceptance of that. And very clear. And now our relationship is that we get to receive the love of the other person from these full versions of ourselves. So I think that, when we're looking for our beloved, it's one thing to kind of be less than or insufficient and lonely and then expect another person's going to change how you feel. But if we take the real spiritual journey, the alchemy journey of becoming our highest self and form, that doesn't necessarily mean the next day you're going to meet that person.
Right.
It means whether you're meant to meet the person or not, the oneness of love that you want to be in union with will be within you either way.
Couldn't have put it better myself, sir.
Oh.
Where can people find out more about you and the amazing work you're doing in the world?
Well, thank you, by the way. My website's mattkahn.org, mattkhn.org. If you sign up for the free newsletter we send out, we also send you a link to our free documentary that was created. It's a documentary that you literally experience healing while you watch it. And I think actually the URL for that is mattkahn.org/love. And it's a free documentary that we created as a gift for the world. And, you can check out all the upcoming events that I'm doing, my wife and I are doing together. And really, this is just, it's time for the world to reconnect as one. And whether we're spiritual beings, not spiritual beings, however we identify ourselves to be, we're all included. We all have a vital role in this ascension, and we literally need the light and the power of every individual to help this world evolve. And so it's incredible when the spiritual community used to be these like little fringe groups, but the most intentional spiritual community is Earth, because we're all spirit. And so it's a beautiful thing to start even just watching the beginning stages of this intentional community remember itself.
And if I can end on this, sir, Can we make #SniffChef a thing?
Sniff chef, yes. Yeah, I'm one of those sniffer chefs. That's how I feel when I say channel. I'm one of those channels.
Sniff channel.
I'm
#sniff channel.
#sniff channel. It's a thing.
Let's make it a thing, everybody.
It's a thing now.
Brother, you're like a brother from another mother, man.
Likewise.
I appreciate you so
Thank
much
you.
for coming, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, much love.
Thanks for watching. Click on one of the videos below to continue your journey, and don't forget to subscribe.